going to start in sitting. We're going to start in a comfortable seated position, whatever that may be to you, as long as our feet are flat on the floor and you're sitting up away from the back of the chair. If you're on a chair or if you're on a couch, try not to slouch into the back of the couch, but you want to be up nice and high. And all we're going to start with here is we're just going to start by elongating our spine nice and gently, thinking about drawing the crown of our head towards the ceiling, almost as if you have a helium balloon for a head and it's floating up towards the ceiling. Good. Thinking about planting the sole of your feet into the floor. Thinking about all 10 toes pressing evenly onto the floor. Good. And from here, we're just going to place a hand, each of our hands at the bottom of our rib cage. And we're going to just ground ourselves. We're going to center ourselves by taking some deep breaths into our hands here. Good. Making sure as you're breathing in, you're elongating the spine. And on the breath out, your spine stays nice and long. Good. Thinking about breathing into the hands here and maintaining that long neck, dropping the shoulders away from the ears as we're breathing. Good. A couple more here. Sitting up nice and tall over our sit bones. We're gonna float our arms down and you're just gonna bring the arms up, palms facing the ceiling, and then you're gonna open on a diagonal to spread the chest nice and wide. So it's almost like you're giving a little bit of a squeeze with the shoulder blades at the back. And floating down again. Good. Again, float those arms up in front of you, palms facing the ceiling. And we're going to open the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades. So it looks like this. Squeeze the shoulder blades. That's it. And down again. Good. Breathing. Good. And if you can't quite open your arms that high, that's fine. You don't have to have them up. You can have them a little bit lower if you like. So ideally, we want to be floating the arms up and then moving in a diagonal upwards. But if you want to keep them by your side like this, that's fine as well. Whatever you're comfortable with, as long as the shoulders are not coming up and you're squeezing the shoulder blades behind you to open through the front of the chest. Good. Keep going. A couple more here. Good. One more. Making sure we're still sitting up nice and tall as we're doing this chest stretch. Good. We're going to bend our elbows into our side, palms still facing up. We're going to move into our dumb waiter, which is spreading the palms and bringing our arms out to the side, keeping the elbows tucked into your ribs. And as we're doing this, we're thinking about keeping those shoulders away from our ears. So we're not lifting them up. We're keeping them down and away from our ears. Good. Keeping the palm nice and open. And the movement is just that rotation in the shoulder joint itself. So if I were to cover your arms with a blanket, it shouldn't look like you're moving at all. Good. Keep it going. Good. And now we're going to add in our Cleopatra, which you probably remember from last time. It's going from your dumbwaiter position, then you're going to stretch the hand and go into an extended position. And as we're doing that, we're going to do a high lift of the upper chest. So notice the high lift is not crunching of the neck, but it's bringing the breastbone up towards the ceiling while keeping the length of your neck. Breastbone to ceiling without crunching the head. That's it. So if I show you from the side, you're high lifting from here versus like this. So it's a very gentle upper spine lift. That's it. Good. Keep going. Open. Chest to ceiling. Good. So the movement here, we're leading with the fingertips. You're spreading those fingertips to the opposite ends of the room, and then you're using your elbow to pull back like so. Good. That's it. Well done. Keep going. A couple more here. Really think about elongating through that spine, sitting up nice and tall still. Good. That's it. Good. And we're going to drop our arms down, still sitting up nice and tall. We're going to do our upper body rolls. We're going to think up and over with our spine. So your head is on a diagonal, and I'm not crunching through the side, but I'm keeping the side nice and long as I'm arching the upper body over. From here, you're going to take that curve a little bit further in front of you. So you're curling the upper spine forward. And then you're going to roll up, stacking one vertebrae at a time back to the middle. Other side. Lengthen the spine, crown of the head to the ceiling. Keep the crown of the head as close to the ceiling as possible as you're leaning over to one side. From here, bring that curve a little bit further forward. And we're going to roll back up, stacking each vertebrae on top of the other. Good. Other side. Reaching the crown of the head to the ceiling and arching over on a diagonal. Good. Keeping that spine nice and long, you're going to curl forward with the upper body, and you're going to roll back up one vertebrae at a time. Good. One more. Other side. Elongating the spine as long as you can make your spine as you're arching over. Good. And bringing that forward in an almost bit of a semicircle kind of position. And then you're rolling back up, stacking each vertebrae on top of the other. Good. We're going to bring our hands to our hips, and we're going to do our foot series. So you're going to start by peeling the heel off of one foot. That's it. Pressing the toes into the floor and back down. Good. Other side. Lifting the heel, pressing the balls of the foot into the floor and down. Good. As you're doing this movement, make sure our spine is still nice and long, so we're not sinking down as we're doing this movement. You want to think chest open, spine long, crown of the head reaching to the ceiling. That's it. Keep going. Thinking about almost like you're growing some roots, penetrating deep into the earth from the bottom of your foot, from the balls of your feet, as you're lifting the heel one at a time. Good. And we're going to take this movement a little bit further, and we're going to peel our toes off. Put the toes down and place the heel down. So we're going heel up, toes down, heel down, staying tall. Heel up, toes down, heel down. Good. So you're really articulating through the foot as you're doing this. And you're trying to stay as tall as you can in your spine, trying not to arch our body as we're articulating through the toes. Good. So there's, of course, going to be some translation of movement side to side as you're shifting your weight, and that's fine as long as we're not crunching through the spine. Trying to sit up as tall as we can, almost like that helium balloon for a head, and it's reaching up towards the ceiling. Good. And now we're just going to add in the arms as we're still pedaling through our feet. And you're going to think opposite arm with leg. Opposite arm with leg. That's it. So you think heel up, toe down, heel down, heel up, toe down, heel down. Good. Keep going. Really articulating through the foot, and you're adding in the opposite arm, and you're just floating the arm. So we're not doing anything in particular with the arm. We're just letting it float in front of you. That's it. Couple more here. Good. One more. That's it. Good. Feet on the floor, hands down. And we're just going to walk one of our hands along the surface that you're sitting on, as far as you can reach without losing your balance, keeping your spine still nice and tall, even though it's arching over, and then you're walking it back. So you're practicing that weight shift onto one side, so keeping your body nice and long. Notice how I'm not crunching here, but my neck is nice and long. My body is still nice and long. That's it. Good. And walking back. Good. One more. Walking it to the side. And this time you're just gonna walk out even further to then begin to lie down onto your side. And then we're going to roll onto our back, like so. So just like last time, you can have multiple pillows. You can have them underneath your back. If you would like to be up a little bit higher, you can not use any pillows at all. It's entirely up to you. So I'm gonna just have these pillows here to demonstrate today. And as you're lying on your back, you're going to gently draw up one leg and then the other. So when you do that, your legs are together. Same with your feet, your legs are touching together. From here, you're going to open the toes out to the side, and then you're going to open the heels out to the side. And what that does is it opens your legs up in a nice parallel, hip width apart position, which is what we want the legs to be in. Okay, so now in this position, we're just going to review our Pilates rest position. So we're thinking about our pelvis to start with. So like before, we're going to make a little diamond with our hand. So you're going to bring the thumbs together and then bring the fingers together. Now you're going to take this diamond and place the thumb in your belly button and then the rest down on your pelvis. So if I turn to show you, it looks like this. You've got your diamond, the thumb goes into the belly button, the rest places down. Okay, so here you're going to imagine there's a little steel ball inside your diamond, and you're going to use the movement of your pelvis to tip that ball towards the top of the diamond and then to the bottom of the diamond. So you want to tip that ball as far as you can one way and the other using your pelvis. So I'm not pushing with my legs, but you're using that pelvis movement. So if I move my hand, you're using the pelvis to tip that ball forwards and backwards. Good. And you're just going to explore here for a second and see how far you can move the pelvis one way and how far you can move it the other way. And with each repetition, you're just going to make the movement smaller and smaller until you get to a point where you're halfway between tipping as far as you can one way and halfway between tipping as far as you can the other way. So you're sort of halfway between tipping up and tipping down. And that here is what we call your neutral pelvis. So you can now relax your arms by your side if you'd like. So that here is your neutral pelvis, and you're going to keep that here. Don't lose that neutral pelvis for the entire duration of the class. Now, you're going to gently draw up through the pelvic floor, almost as if you're sitting on a block of ice and it's really cold and you're just pulling up a little bit through that pelvic floor, maybe about 20%. So we're not clenching, maybe 20% of your contraction. Okay, and as you're doing that, making sure we're still maintaining our neutral pelvis and we're not moving it. From here, you're going to think about melting the ribs down into the bed. And that is our third element of our Pilates rest position, with the first two being the neutral pelvis and the pulling up through the pelvic floor. Next, you're going to think about your shoulder blades, and you're going to feel how heavy they are pressing down into the bed. And then you're just going to slide them towards your feet such that it's almost like you're tucking your shoulder blades into the opposite back pocket of your pants. And as you're doing this, make sure we're not losing the melting of our ribs. We're not losing that neutral pelvis, and we're not losing that gentle contraction of our pelvic floor. Good. And the last element of our Pilates rest position is our neck. So we're going to think about elongating the back of the neck, almost like you've got a little peach that you're holding underneath the chin. And as you're doing that, making sure our shoulders are still down and sliding into the opposite back pocket of our pants. And all of these elements here is our Pilates rest position, which we're going to keep the entire duration of our Pilates class. So we're not going to lose any of these elements as we're moving through our Pilates class. Good. From here, we're going to do our one leg stretch, level 1, where we're sliding one leg out away from us, and then we're pulling that leg back in. And as we're doing this one leg stretch, level 1, we want to be really careful that we're not losing our neutral pelvis. So we're not gonna arch as we're bringing that leg away, right? So we're maintaining that neutral pelvis. We're still pulling up through our pelvic floor. Our ribs are still melted into the bed. Our shoulder blades are still pressing down into the bed and sliding towards the opposite back pocket of our pants. And our neck is still nice and long with that little peach underneath our chin. And as we're doing the sliding, the non-moving knee should be very steady and very still. So it's like what we spoke about last week. You want to almost imagine you're balancing a glass of red wine on the non-moving knee and you're lying on some beautiful white carpet. So you really don't want to be spilling any of that wine. You want to keep it as steady as you can. Good. Keep going. Thinking about that neutral pelvis, almost like you got a spirit level sitting on the top of your pelvis, and you want that little bubble to stay in the middle the entire time. Good. Keep it going. Looking at this neutral pelvis, keeping it as steady as you can. Good. From here, we're going to keep the legs going and we're going to add in some arms. So we're going to float the arms up overhead as you're sliding the leg away, and you're going to circle the arms as you're bringing the leg back. So arm and leg away from the center of the body, and the leg is coming back as the arms circle back, like so. So as we're doing this, this is our double leg stretch now. We want to make sure we're not losing any of the 5 Pilates rest elements. So you're really still keeping that neck long with that peach underneath the chin. You're still keeping the shoulders away from the ears, pressing down into the bed and sliding into the opposite back pocket of your pants. And you're still making sure the ribs are melted down into the bed and your pelvis is still neutral and you're still pulling up through your pelvic floor. I know there's lots to think about, but we're trying to maintain that stability in our trunk as we're moving our arms and legs. And this is sort of the main point of Pilates, is that limb dissociation exercise. So the ability of our body to move the arms and legs and head independent from our trunk so that we can still maintain balance and stability as we're moving. Good. A couple more here in your own time. Breathing. Good. Well done. And we're going to float the arms back down. Good. If you feel you've lost your neutral pelvis a little bit, go back to your diamond and try to do a couple of the pelvic tilts to see if you can find that middle point again, where you're halfway between tipping your pelvis as far as you can up and tipping as far as you can down. Good. From here, we're going to do our abdo prep. We're going to think about that neck being nice and long, almost like you've got a string connecting the middle of your shoulder blades along the back of the neck to the top of the head. And it's almost like you're pulling on that string and you're bringing the breastbone towards your belly button and coming down. So as you're doing this abdo prep, we're not crunching through the neck. We're still keeping that peach underneath the chin. And the movement is coming from your abdominal muscles, almost like you've got a string attached from the bottom of your ribs to the top of your hips, and you're pulling on that string to bring the breastbone towards your navel. And as you're doing that, you're thinking about breathing, keeping those shoulder blades away from your ears, floating, hovering the arms off the bed. Good, breathing. Good. If this is too difficult on your neck, you can try to keep the head down, but you're thinking about still pulling through the ribs. You're still drawing those ribs towards the abdominal muscles, towards the front of the hip, even if you keep your neck down. Good. And you're floating your arms up. Now, doing this at your own time, on your next abdo crunch, you are going to hold it and pulse 3, 2, 1 with your arms before coming back down. So we're coming up, pulsing 3, 2, 1, and down. Making sure we're not hurting our neck. We're still keeping that peach underneath the chin as we're holding and pulsing. 3, 2, 1, and down. Good. Keep going. Keeping our neutral pelvis still. 3, 2, 1. Shoulders still away from the ears. 3, 2, 1. Good. One more. Pulse. 3, 2, 1, and relax for a second. Good. You can relax your neutral pelvis if you like. So for this next one, I'm going to move my pillows because this is our shoulder bridge. So ideally, you don't really want a pillow, but if you want one, because you can't lie flat, that's fine as well. But just be careful we're not crunching through the neck. Okay, so we're going to find our Pilates rest position again, thinking about finding that neutral pelvis. So finding that middle point between going so far one way and so far the other way. So you're being right in the middle. You're pulling up through that pelvic floor by about 20%, melting the ribs down into the bed. Shoulder blades pressing down into the bed and sliding into the opposite back pocket of our pants. Back of the neck nice and long, holding that peach underneath the chin. From here, we're going to do our shoulder bridge. We're going to start by thinking about peeling from our tailbone, and you're going to peel each spine bone off the bed one at a time until you get to a point in between your shoulder blades. From here, you're going to lower back down one vertebrae at a time. So you're really thinking about your spine almost like a string of pearls that you're pulling up from the sand. So you're really peeling each vertebrae at a time up off the bed. Good. Making sure at the top, see how I'm nice and flat on an incline here. We're not doing this, so we're not arching through our spine. And we're going to lower back down one vertebrae at a time as well. So today, we're going to do a little bit of an arm float as we're doing this. So you get to the top of the bridge, and you're going to see if you can float both arms up to the ceiling or one arm, and then coming back down one vertebrae at a time. See if you can float both arms down. So you don't have to move both arms. It can be one arm if you would like, and then coming down, as long as you're alternating between the arms for each repetition. Good, keep going. You're articulating through that spine, floating the arms up, and then lowering down one vertebrae at a time as you float the arms back down. Good, keep going. Breathing. So remember, like we mentioned last time, the breaths that you're doing here is not so much about whether you're inhaling to prepare and exhaling to execute or not. You're just going to breathe at whatever feels natural to you, because I don't want to be adding too many elements to this. Otherwise, we might get a little bit confused with trying to maintain our breathing pattern, but then also trying to execute this movement. Good. Nice and soft, nice and slow with the movement. The slower you can peel each vertebrae off, the better. So we don't want to be going very quick. We want to just peel nice and gently. See if you can do one more on your own time. Really think about articulating through that spine. So on the way down, your bottom should be the last thing to come down. Good, and rest there for a second. Okay, we're gonna do our hip twist level 1. So still in this position with our knees bent, we're gonna maintain our Pilates rest position, thinking about long back of the neck, holding that peach under the chin, shoulder blades weighing down heavy into the bed and sliding into the opposite back pocket of our pants. And we're thinking about the ribs melting down into the bed. Pelvis nice and neutral, pulling up through our pelvic floor. From here, we're going to gently move one knee out to the side, only as far as you can without tipping and without losing your Pilates rest position. And then you're going to bring it back. Good. Making sure our ribs are still melted into the bed, still having our neutral pelvis, still pulling up through the pelvic floor, still having our shoulders away from the ears, back of the neck is still long. Good. And you're making sure the opposite knee, the non-moving knee, is going to be balancing something on top. So imagine that glass of red wine balancing on top of the non-moving knee as you're doing this. And really important that we don't tip our pelvis towards the side that we're opening the knee to. So think about that spirit level sitting on top of your pelvis, and you want to keep that little bubble right in the middle the whole time. So you'll probably find that this movement here, it won't feel like you're moving very much, and that's okay, because it's not so much about how far you can move your leg, it's more about how much stability you can maintain. And as we get better at this, you'll find that actually you can move your leg a little bit further each time. Breathing here, making sure the shoulders are still away from the ears. Back of the neck is still nice and long with that little peach under our chin. Ribs still melted down into the bed. That's it. Good. Wonderful. A couple more here in your own time. Thinking about that spirit level. We're not tipping the pelvis. The non-moving knee, balancing a glass of wine. Good. And rest. From here, we're going to bring our legs in together so that our legs and feet are touching. We're going to open our arms to the side. So as you can see, I'm pretty close to my wall. So this arm is unfortunately bent, but you want to open it into sort of like a T shape. From here, we're going to do our hip twist level 2, and you're going to drop your knees to one side, keeping the feet stacked, so we're not leaving one leg behind. We're keeping the feet one on top of the other, and you're going to look towards the opposite side, letting that hip pull off the bed, feeling that stretch here. And then from here, you're going to imagine there are some magnets at the soles of your feet and the back of your hip that's going to suck you back into the middle of the bed. Good. Keep going. Other side. You're bringing those knees down to the other side, keeping the feet stacked, right? So we're not keeping one leg behind, but we're stacking the legs. And then you're thinking about magnets at the soles of the feet and the back of the hip. That's pulling you back to the middle. Good. One more each side. Dropping that knee to one side, keeping the feet and knees stacked on top of each other, feeling that stretch across your back, and then thinking about the magnets at the bottom of the feet, sucking you back to the middle. Good. One more, other side. Gently dropping that knee, looking the opposite way, keeping the feet stacked. Good. And then thinking about the magnet sucking you back to the middle. Good. From here, we're going to lie onto our side. So we're just going to gently drop our knees in whichever direction you're comfortable. And you're going to move your upper body to the side as well, such that you're lying on your side. And when you're lying on your side, you can use pillows to get yourself comfortable. And you can move your arm in whichever direction you'd like. So I've got mine up overhead with a pillow here, but you don't have to have your arm there. You can have it in front, you can have it underneath the head, whatever is comfortable for you. Now, lying on our side, we want to make sure our feet are in line with the hip, in line with the shoulders and the head. So we don't want them forward, but we don't want them too far back. You want the feet to be in line with the hip, in line with the shoulders, in line with the head. Good. From here, we're going to think about that neutral pelvis. You're going to take the top hip and you're going to think about pulling it towards your feet, such that you create a little gap underneath your spine. You're going to imagine you've got some headlights at the front of the hips that you're just going to tip forward a little bit so that they're pointing on a diagonal towards the floor. And you want to think about melting your ribs into your spine. So we're not flaring our ribs like that, but you're melting them into your spine. Good. Still maintaining that little gap underneath your spine by pulling the top hip towards the feet. Good. Shoulders away from the ears. From here, we're going to do our clams level 1, where you open up the top knee and bringing it back down, keeping the feet together, still thinking about the front of the hips, pointing down on a diagonal towards the floor. And you'll probably notice keeping that little gap under the spine, pointing the front of the hips towards the floor. It's quite a lot to think about. And you probably won't be able to lift that top knee very high, but that's okay. It's not necessarily about how high you can move the leg. It's more about how much stability you can maintain in the trunk. So really think about the headlights at the front of the hips, pointing on a diagonal towards the floor. So you don't want to be doing this kind of rolling movement, right? You want to keep the front of the hips pointing on a diagonal. Good. A couple more here. Lovely. Good. And I'm just going to introduce to you clams level 2 to do for next week. So all we're going to do here, keeping our knees together, is we're going to float the feet off and bring them back down. So the feet are together, but I'm just going to lift them off the bed and bring them back down. So you'll probably feel it in the bottom hip a little bit more as you're doing this movement. And this movement here is the beginning of clams level 2, because clams level 2 looks like this, but we're not doing that today. We're just going to practice lifting the feet off the bed. Good. That's it. Well done. Let's do one more here. Good. And we'll go back to our clams level 1. Good. Still making sure that top hip is still pulled towards the feet. So you still have that nice gap underneath your spine, the front of the hips. You're still thinking about those headlights pointing down on a diagonal towards the floor. Good. One more. Awesome job. And rest. You can rub out the top of your hip if you like. Okay. Now we're going to get right back into it to our side kick, level 1. So again, we're thinking about pulling that top hip towards the feet. So you create a nice gap under your spine, thinking about headlights at the front of the hips that you're pointing down on a diagonal towards the floor. Ribs melting into the spine, shoulders down. Good. From here, you're going to hover the top leg off. So remember, we're not lifting the foot, we're not lifting the knee, but the knee and the foot are on the same level. One is not higher than the other, and bring it back down. That's it. So this is our side kick prep. That's it, good. So you're thinking about keeping those thighs parallel to each other as you're doing this, good. And you can either stay at this level if you like, or you can start moving to level 1 where you're thinking about a glass table in between your legs, a glass table that you're placing your top leg on, and you're just brushing, sweeping across the top of that glass table, like you're dusting that glass table. And as you're doing that, we want to make sure we're still having our knees and foot on the same level. We're not having the knees droop down or the foot droop down, but you want them to be parallel to the floor. And making sure as we're sweeping across, our shoulder is still away from the ears. We're not flaring our ribs forward. We're keeping the ribs mounted into our spine. That's it, good. Wonderful, well done. So remember, you don't have to do the sweeping. You can stay at this level if you would like. Whichever one you find suitable for yourself is fine. That's it. We're going to do a couple more here in your own time. Good. Excellent job. Good. Awesome job. And we'll bring the leg down. Good. From here, we're going to bring our hands together and we're going to open them across the chest. So keeping the other arm long. Of course, I'm by a wall, so I have to keep it bent, but you're trying to open the arms. Good. From here, we're thinking about the little magnet under our feet and at the back of our hip. That's going to suck us down into this middle position. And then you're just going to drop your knees to the other side so you can lie on the other side. I'm going to do the other side facing you just so you can see me, but make sure that you're actually going to the other side as well. Okay, so we're lying down with a pillow again in whichever way you feel comfortable. And we're making sure that as we're lying here, our feet are in line with our hip, in line with our shoulder, in line with the head. Okay. And we're going to keep our neutral pelvis. So we're thinking about pulling that top hip down towards our feet to create a little gap underneath our spine. Thinking about the front of our hips. Imagine headlights coming out. Right now, they're pointing at the wall. You want to point them down slightly on a diagonal, okay? And you're thinking about melting those ribs back into your spine. Shoulders nice and away from the neck, neck long. Good. From here, we're going to do our clams level 1. Opening that top knee again. Making sure we're still keeping that top hip pulling towards the feet such that you have a little gap underneath your spine. Good. Headlights still pointing on a diagonal, and we're still breathing. Good. Excellent. So again, you won't feel very much here, and that's fine. You don't have to lift that leg very high. It's as far as you can go without tipping back, right? You want to keep the headlights pointing on a diagonal towards the floor. Good, excellent job, everybody. Keep going. A couple more here. Good. One more. Good. And from here, we're going to do our clamps level 2 prep, where we just lift the feet off. Making sure as we're bringing the feet down, we're not dropping them down, but we're controlling that landing. So with this one, you'll feel it on the bottom hip more than the top hip, and that's perfectly normal. Making sure we're still trying to pull that top hip towards the feet, right? To create a gap underneath our spine. Good. Excellent. A couple more here. Good. One more. And we're going to go back to our clams level 1. Thinking about the headlights still pointing on that diagonal towards the floor. Shoulders away from the ears. Neck still nice and long. Top hip still pulling towards the feet to create a little gap underneath our spine. Good. Couple more here. Breathing. Good. And rest for a second. You can rub out the top of the hip if you need. We're going to move on into our side kick level 1. So again, we're thinking about pulling that top hip towards the feet to create a little gap underneath our spine. Front of the hips, thinking about headlights, pointing down on a diagonal towards the floor. Ribs melting into the spine. Shoulders away from the ears, neck nice and long. From here, we're hovering the top leg, making sure our knee and foot are level. So we're not having one higher than the other, but you're having your knee and foot level to each other. Good. That's it. Keeping that top hip pulled towards the feet so that you have a gap underneath your spine. Shoulders away from the ears. Good. And you can either keep it at this level, or you can start to dust that tabletop again. Thinking about not letting the knee or the foot be higher, but you want both to be the same height. They should be level. And making sure as you're bringing the leg forward, we're not dropping it down, but you're still keeping the same gap between the thighs. That gap between the thighs should not get bigger and should not get smaller. That's it. Good. So you're thinking about dusting that tabletop here, making sure the ribs do not flare as you're going back, right? You want to keep that rib in. Good. That's it. So remember, you don't have to do it this way. You can keep it at this hovering level as well. Okay. A couple more here in your own time. Good. Well done. One more. Excellent. Good. And rest. We're going to bring our hands forward together, and you're going to draw the arm across your chest to open your shoulders, to stretch that back. So again, here, I'm right by the wall, so unfortunately I can't straighten this arm, but you want to straighten both arms out to the side, almost like you're in a bit of a T shape, like so. Good. And then we're gonna come back. And from here, we're going to push into our arms, bring our legs towards the edge of the bed, and we're going to sit up. Good. Take your time here, making sure we're not sitting up too quickly so you're not getting dizzy. But we just want to come back into a seated position. where you're on the edge of your bed or your couch. We're not leaning. We're gonna try to sit up nice and long, feet planted firmly onto the floor. Good. From here, we're gonna think about elongating the spine, nice and tall. Think about that helium balloon for a head that's floating up at the ceiling. Good. And you're gonna think about that helium balloon quality for the head, and you're just going to rotate the head on the spot. So think about that helium balloon head. So your head is pulling up towards the ceiling. So it's not down onto the shoulders. It's nice and light away from the shoulders as we're rotating the neck. Good. That's it. Keep going a couple more. Nice long spine, sitting tall on your sitting bones. Thinking about the helium balloon head. Good. Back to the middle. From here, we're gonna float our arms in front. We're gonna open them out to the side. So opening that chest and collarbone. Sitting up nice and tall, keep the spine long, planting your hip bones firmly down into the bed. You're going to rotate your upper body on a diagonal, making sure it's not our arms, right? So we're not rotating with our arms, but you're thinking this whole unit of your arms and your breastbone moves together in a block on a diagonal. Good. Nice and tall on your sit bones. And the other way, spreading those fingers. So we're thinking about the arms and the breastbone moving in one block. Good. Keep it going. Neck nice and long. One more. Good. And float the arms down. From here, we're going to do our mermaid stretch. So we're going to sweep one arm up our side and out. So you can either have it out or you can sweep up overhead. It's up to you. And you're going to look in the opposite direction, neck long, and then you're going to sweep down the side again. Other side, sweep the arm up your side, and you're going to spring the arm out, and you're going to look in the opposite direction. Or if your arm is overhead, it looks like this. And then you're going to sweep your arm back down. So sweeping the arm across, look in the opposite direction, arm either up or to the side, whatever you're comfortable with. One more. That's it. Long neck. Good. From here, we're going to cross the arms, almost like you're going to take off a shirt. So you're crossing the arms and opening up overhead. Or if you can't open overhead, you can cross the arms and open forward like this. Either way is fine. Cross the arms, sweep open, whether it's up overhead or across the front, whichever one works. Opening that chest. Good. One more. Across and open that chest. Lower the arms back down. Good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again for Pilates Level 1, Week 3. So I'm just coming forward here in case anybody has any questions about anything. So next week, same day, same time, is going to be our last session of our Pilates Level 1 series. So this is the first time we're doing a Pilates series on our platform. So we would love to hear your feedback if you have any for us. whether it's compliments, criticism, suggestions, anything that you would like to contribute. We would love to hear from you. It helps us streamline our services a little bit better in the future. So you can either type in the chat box if you like, or you can email us about the series that we've been doing. But hopefully, if all goes well, we can always do a future Pilates series as well. But hopefully it's just a nice way for us to bring some low impact yet challenging exercises to our daily routine, helps us with our flexibility a little bit and being able to hold our posture a little bit upright more. Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us today for Pilates Level 1. For those who prefer a slightly more challenging class, you can look at our Pilates Level 2 class, which is on a Thursday. But of course, that class starts in standing and then lying on the floor and then back up to standing again. So it's up to everybody what your levels are like. But the classes are recorded. So if you wanted to revisit the classes at a future date, you can do so on our website or on our YouTube channel, which has our Pilates Level 1 and Level 2 classes if you wanted to look at it in the future. Yeah. Yes, and thank you, Alana. So the Super Walk, so Parkinson's Super Walk coming up in September, which is happening September the 12th to the 13th. So that's the walk weekend. And you can register for that online. We've got the link at the very top of our chat box that you can click on and go to our Parkinson's Super Walk webpage. So even though this year it's virtual, it's very much like last year where you are still signing up, even as an individual or as a group, and you're going to use that to fundraise for Parkinson's. And the fundraising goes towards all of our programs and events and services, including these kind of exercise webinars. So you probably found that in the recent weeks and recent months, we've been pumping out a lot of exercise webinars, a lot of different ones, and it's all because of generous funding from people like yourself, which allows us to do all of these programs free of charge. And we hope that we can continue funding these kind of services free of charge in the future, because they are quite a nice resource for the Parkinson's community to have. So if you're interested in Parkinson's Super Walk, click on the link above, and we would love to see you virtually there. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. I will see you next week on Tuesday, same time, same place, for our final session of our Pilates Level 1. Thank you, everybody.